of the summit. Okay, we are up to the panel discussion session. I'm really excited for this opportunity to speak with healthcare leaders and also business professionals and a director of a technical school. Throughout the summit, if you can look up on the screen, we have a hashtag. If you have social media, we would love it if you posted pictures, comments on hashtag PA Lang Summit 25. So if you have any social media, it'd be great to post what is happening at today's event. My name is Sherry Garrett, and I was the leader of the task force that presented this idea a year and a half ago. And I want to thank you for being here. I never in my wildest dreams thought that we could actually have so many people here helping to support advocacy for the state. So thank you so much. The task force is just not myself. It is made up of wonderful individuals that have been working daily for this mission for the last year and a half. So I definitely want to thank my colleagues for helping to put together the summit and everything that they have done. So if I get a round of applause for these hard workers. Our panel members, we're going to start with just a quick introduction. We're going to start with Dale on the very end. I'm going to have them say their name, where they work, and just their job title. So just a really brief introduction so you know who is sitting in front of you. After that, we will segue into discussion questions, which our facilitators, Michael Webb and Rachel Holler, will be also leading. So we're going to start with Dale. If you can just say name, workplace, and your job title.
Dale Pishishian, I'm with HealthWorks Academies, and I'm the founder and CEO.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
My name is Marcus Grunwald. I'm with Morex Ribbon, and I'm the president of the company.
My name is Elizabeth Perez. I'm with EPM Language and Translation Services.
Does this work? Hi everyone. Michael Herrera, proud executive director of Upper Bucks County Technical School, and I also represent the Association of Career and Technical Education on their board of directors. Hello.
Good morning to all. Pleasure being here with you all. My name is Diogo Prado. I'm with Training Technologies. I'm a general manager of Klinga Corporation, a merger acquisition we did last year, and we are based out of York, Pennsylvania.
Good morning. Hi. I'm Dr. Bhavik Kapoor. I'm chair of emergency medicine at Allegheny Health Network in Pittsburgh, and I'm the professor of emergency medicine at Drexel University.
Hi everyone, my name is Eliza Swan. I am at UPMC, the other health system based in Pittsburgh, and I am the Chief Operating Officer for UPMC Enterprises.
Okay, our 4 goals for the summit today is first to create awareness about the need for leadership for world languages in the Pennsylvania Department of Education. The second goal is to highlight the need for multilinguals in the workplace, which is directly why these people are seated in front of you. Also, we'll be later today developing the Pennsylvania Language Roadmap and then providing networking. So as each person up here is speaking, if you think about how can I kind of pick their brains to see the connection between the workplace and education. The need for multilingual workers, as you well know, we definitely have a large need in Pennsylvania. In fact, 9 out of 10 U.S. employers rely on employees with language skills rather than English. 1 in 3 language-dependent U.S. employers report a language skills gap. And 1 in 4 U.S. employers, especially in the mid to small size businesses, have lost business due to a lack of language skills. So there truly is a need for multilingual workers, especially in Pennsylvania. We're going to start with our first question. I'm going to turn this over to our facilitators and have them lead the questions.
we have a tall order here because we have 7 amazing panelists and just a short amount of time to get to hear from them. So we're going to do our very best, and each of them has selected 3 questions that they're going to be addressing. So the first question is, how has your organization benefited from employees that can communicate in a language other than English, or how has your organization enhanced career readiness for current or future employees? And we'll start with Marcus.
Very good, yeah. I have 2 good examples. So the one is in our production department, converting department. Half the people have Hispanic background, and it really helps a lot that we have some people, sort of the dreamers. They came to the country, grew up with perfect English and perfect Spanish, and they can help to communicate with those people, and that's why we have workers since 20, 30 years, and they really do an excellent job, and it's a 2-way street. They put a lot of pride into the job too. And then because of my German heritage, it was interesting when I started to we buy decorative ribbon, and I bought ribbon from Switzerland, and I had a new project there, and then the factory from Switzerland says, well, how are you going to fill your orders? And I said, well, we're going to fly it in every week. And he said, you got to ship right away. So he basically gave me $50,000 in consignment inventory. So that means at the end of every month, I send him what we sold, and then we pay our bills. So I basically use the Swiss bank there, or my Swiss supplier as a bank. And that was because he had the trust that I have the right program, and I was able to speak with the Swiss people. They speak 4 languages, so I spoke German with him, and that created that trust. So a lot of times for business connections, that language connection provides a higher level of trust than when you just do it a facial friendliness.
Thank you, Marcus. We'll go next to Eliza.
Thank you. I don't know if this, I'll try to speak up. I don't know if this is the microphone working? No. No. Okay, very good. I'll talk loud. UPMC Enterprises is the innovation and commercialization arm of UPMC. We're basically the venture capital arm of UPMC, and we we are part of the not-for-profit system that is UPMC, but we oversee a portfolio of 30 to 40 for-profit investments that we pursue based on primarily on trying to solve problems that we at UPMC face and look to emerging startup companies to help us leverage innovative technologies in order to solve the problems of the broader healthcare system. And one big area that a lot of people are focused on is AI. And we, like every other health system, are thinking about how to use AI within our system, how it can be effective. I think that I agree wholeheartly with what Amanda said. I don't see AI replacing wonderful doctors like Bobby, but I do see AI as having the capability to help physicians do their jobs and do them more efficiently. I think we are already there in terms of AI's ability to help hospital administrators and operators streamline operations and make hospitals run more effectively from an administrative perspective. AI algorithms, to do their job, they're trained on massive amounts of data, which is to say that they are trained on massive amounts of language. And so if language, for instance, clinician notes are a huge part of the bolus of data that healthcare systems generate and that go to help train AI models to do specific jobs. And if there are words that make it into the clinician's notes, which inevitably there are, and if those AI algorithms misinterpret those words, then it can lead to biases in the way that the algorithm functions, and it can therefore lead to glitches and break breaks in the algorithm's performance, and so the AI isn't going to work the way it should. So an understanding of language, an understanding of how these large language models should be created, curated, and interpreted by these AI algorithms is essential. And it is something that we at Enterprises are increasingly focused on as we all sort of struggle and grapple with how to make AI work and work fairly, work effectively and accurately with our patient populations, with our hospitals, and it's not sort of, we are not patient facing. We don't, our solutions are patient facing, but we at Enterprises don't see patients every day, but we have patients in mind 24/7 and are thinking about how language filters and works into our innovation processes every day.
Pass the mic right next to you to Bobby.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, that was great. Appreciate that perspective. So when a patient comes to and engages in healthcare, when they come to the emergency department or a hospital or they go to a clinic, the first part of the evaluation is the history of the physical. And so I was actually an English literature major as an undergraduate before I went to medical school. I have a keen interest in the patient's story and their history. And I truly believe, and you can ask House or Dr. Watson, that the diagnosis is in the story. I really do. I think if you get the story right and you get the history, then you can their care and get the appropriate diagnosis. And we'll talk about this in the second part, but otherwise you get this overutilization and you go down the wrong pathway. So when a patient comes in, some basic questions, right? Like, what's bothering you? And they may come in and say, well, I'm having chest pain. And even that simple description of chest pain varies completely. Is it a stabbing pain, or is it a squeezing pain, or is it a pressure pain? And then how long did the pain last? What makes it better? What makes it worse? What are the associated symptoms? Is there nausea? Is there vomiting? Sweating? What have you done for the pain? Do you take some aspirin? Do you take an antacid? And then what makes it worse? And then also, we've got the other things. Like, is there a family history? Did you have a parent who had a heart attack recently, or at your same age? What medications do you take? Are you a smoker? Are you a drinker? And this is really easy if you know English and your patient knows English. If you don't know their language, you can really go down the wrong pathway. And so in healthcare, I think it's extremely critical because when you can use your technology, and no offense to AI, but I think we're getting really close. It's large language models, right? It's large language models. But if you get the language models right, you can create other confusion. But the reality is that by having someone who can speak a patient's language, by having someone who's familiar with the language, either has learned that in school or is a native speaker, you can get to the nuance of how language really describes what they're experiencing. And so you put the patient at ease, you create much more level of comfort. They're more likely to tell you things that they may not have told you before. You can tell them small things like how long it's going to take. Well, your CAT scan's going to take an hour, 2 hours. You can let their family members know if they can go home or have to stay. What if they have a child at daycare that they need to pick up, or a pet at home? There's a lot of things that happen, especially in the emergency department setting, when you are engaging with the patient in an acute setting. It allows you to do the right testing, right? So do you do the right X-ray, the right scan, the right blood test? And because of what I learned from the history, allows me to make sure that I can direct the right care. And then also, you can then prescribe the right medications, and more importantly, I think you can create appropriate follow-up. Like, you can discharge the patient from the clinic or the primary care office, and you get medication adherence, you get better outcomes. It's important for the patient because they get the best care they need, and then they'll also stay engaged in the healthcare system. And then it goes even further if you talk about social determinants of health. So food security, housing security, education, all those other things. Really, again, I have a public health background, also national public health, but the public health perspective and the direct clinical perspective is important. One really nice example is we recently recruited to the Southern Hills, the south and southern suburbs of Pittsburgh, a physician who's a Haitian background. There's a large Haitian community in that region, and so a lot of her patients have been attracted to her, come to her for care, because she can understand from a language perspective and provide the right care. So thank you, I'm really excited to be here today, and I appreciate all the work you're doing.
I will pass the mic to Diogo.
Oh, awesome point, Bobby, and looking for myself and experience not being an English native speaker. it's extremely difficult to explain some things on your health side and illness to a doctor, and that would help a lot. You know? And coming from my side, looking for a business perspective, I believe it's a little bit related to that. That is how we can, with workforce that is speaking other language, to improve the customer experience, and service. This will improve the customer satisfaction and also loyalty, making sure they feel understood and valued. The other thing is how we improve the collaboration between team members. This will lead to more effective and efficient project outcomes. My organization is a small organization in New York, but it's a very diverse one. We have people from Denmark, from England, from Peru, Puerto Rico, and myself from Brazil. And having a workforce that speaks several languages helps us a lot on the business, gives a company a competitive edge and advance against the competition, and helps us to penetrate other markets overseas as well. Related to an example about the career readiness piece, I work in an organization. I'm with Training Technologies for more than 25 years now. I'm suspicious to talk about it. I like the way we build people for the future. And we have a very strong process that is called PDC, that stands for Performance and Development Connections. This is a process that we get together with each manager, with their team members, once a quarter to discuss performance. Then the second quarter we talk about development, and the development can include the languages as well, depending on the career aspirations. We talk on the Q3 about careers, and on the last quarter we make a review of the results of the year. And I'm a living example of that. I started my career with training in Brazil, passed through several leadership roles inside the Brazil organization, and the other path is to grow on my career were the closest one in Latin America region. And I prepared myself with Spanish, with the support with my managers, to assume other leadership roles in the region. And the language helped me a lot to engage with the 10 offices we have across Latin America, rapport with the team, get more connections, improving communication and strategies, and guaranteeing we were moving to the right pace and being more effective on delivering our results. So the language on that piece helped me a lot, and the English, how we could get connections with the North America organization and Europe to bring in things to support the growth in the region. So the language helped me a lot on my career path.
Thank you. And our very last panelist for this question is Michael.
Maybe easier for me to stand. I apologize. Good morning, everyone. Excited to be here on this beautiful day. I know I am. I forgot my shirt and I had to run to Target this morning. Good thing, full disclosure. And Amanda, the intersection really resonated with me because I know what's the career tech ed person doing up on the stage. And last October, I had an opportunity to meet with Language Testing International that really credentials language. And I've really learned that language is the door to opportunity. Credentialing unlocks that. So I've had a wonderful experience over the last year and a half, including participating at the Seal of Biliteracy Summit, JCNL, a wonderful opportunity. And it's really about connecting language, workforce development, national security in one. And for us in the career tech school, the first thing we had to do was really identify students that spoke and was proficient in another language. Seems simple, right? With all this information, nationally we want to collect those statistics, but a lot of my students really didn't identify. So it was almost like a student find. I had to search that. And we said, we really want to give you an assessment that will credential your language. And the students that we met with started telling their friends. And with all the testing that's out there now, to have kids say, hey, how do I get involved or how do I take that assessment really shows the value. Teresa is here from Dauphin. I know she credentials language in a number of the career technical schools. But again, this is, in Career Tech Ed, we're about student outcomes, industry certificates. So when we provide our students that actual assessment, it is a legally defensible credential and it's connected to the workplace. Speaking at the Seal of Biliteracy Summit, I was on stage with someone from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And right there, she told us that there's 120 languages spoken, 20 full-time translators, and they never have enough. So some of our students that were credentialed in Turkish, in Spanish, providing that is really a game changer for the health field. If you take a look just at the demographics in this country, from the baby boomers and my generation, just significantly less people, and the needs, it's very, very critical that we have our students that are credentialed in workforce development, in language, because they're needed. It's a critical shortage. And not only that, but who's going to be building the hospitals and who's the infrastructure that we need. So by credentialing our students in safety, working with MTA in New York, it's critical, and we really need to be able to focus on this. So I had the opportunity to bring a language into CTE, but we're also bringing Career Tech Ed into language programs, working with our sending school districts, some of our L programs, working with them and say we could give you a Myers-Briggs assessment interest, find what their passion is, their purpose, credential their language, and then have them get into the workplace. At Upper Bucks Tech School, we have about 925 students. 147 of our students have worked on co-op. They've made over $1 million. So again, connecting students' passion. And what we're looking to do now is working with our sending schools, taking those silos down, and then credentialing and putting those students with their Persian and their superpower being their language. It's really a game changer. So I could go on and on. I'd love to talk to anyone more about it. It's become a passion of mine. I just want to say thank you for all that you do, being able to go to the ACTFL conference, seeing many of you sometimes paying your own way to go to this conference, just knowing how passionate you are. We just thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, panelists, for that preliminary question. And good morning, everybody. As a former world languages educator, just want to say how much good it does my heart to see so many people from so many different walks of life coming together to talk about the importance of world languages and multilingualism. Panelists, thank you so much for being here. Can't overestimate how important it is. And I won't take up any more time because we do have a number of questions to get to. So question 2, we'll have 3 panelists responding to. How has your organization been impacted by not having multilingual employees? And if you could provide a brief example of how something like miscommunication, lost time, lost revenue, or safety in the workplace have been impacted. This time we'll start with Bobby.
Thank you. So it's kind of the flip side of the coin of what I was saying earlier. What's interesting also is a lot of individuals, especially from different cultures, when they show up into healthcare, they're very stoic. They may not be as expressive as we think, so sometimes we may dismiss their concerns or some of their symptoms. And so that's a big issue because there may be something serious going on, and we may not appreciate what's going on, and then they may not get the care or the treatment that they need. But the reality is, again, the main issues around language barriers and cultural barriers in healthcare is that you end up sometimes actually over-treating or over-utilizing resources. So because you can't understand what's going on, there's a lot of risk aversion in healthcare. You want to get sued, so then you might order too many scans, too many blood tests, too many things, too many consultants. And so that overutilization of healthcare really is it increases the cost of the health system. There's also an opportunity cost, because if I have to schedule someone for a CT or an MRI, that means somebody who really needed that study may have to wait a longer period of time and may delay their diagnosis. So again, there's a lot of issues and problems when you can't get the communication and correct at the beginning, at the outset. It also can lead to medication adherence, so things like high blood pressure and diabetes, which is really critical to keep those parameters under control, because you don't want to have someone's glucose getting too high or coming back and the blood pressure getting too high and coming back with a stroke. So medication adherence becomes a big issue, and then I said follow-up, and then also screening, like cancer screenings and other screenings, and just creating an environment where patients they feel comfortable engaging with the healthcare system and with healthcare providers, and that's less of a barrier. Especially in an acute setting like the emergency department, we talked about this before. Like we have like apps on our phones. We've got language apps. We've got video. We can bring like an iPad into a room. But it really is not the same as having someone who can speak language, understand the culture, understand the nuance of language, and then also often you have to go back and forth. Like you get some information, you have to go back in, you have to dial up the interpreter again, the video interpreter, or use your phones. It's just it's a lot harder. And then finally, self-monitoring, right? How do you explain to someone how to use a glucometer, or how to check your blood pressure daily, or how to write those things down? So it's multifaceted, and I think it really can have a big impact on outcomes and costs for the system implementation.
Thank you, Bobby. And Diogo?
On the business side, I would say we not having the adequate workforce and language to support a global growth, you lose business. We lose revenue, we lose contracts, and also impact on the decrease of the customer satisfaction. I work in the Klinga Corporation, although we are a small business inside the Trend Technologies, it's global in nature. And recently I've been in Rotterdam on an exhibition, and a customer from Spain came to me, and he was complaining about the aftermarket support. And when I went to deep dive and understand a little bit more about the situation, the team was supporting this very well. The big issue they were having, he didn't speak English, and the communication was doing basically on English. And he had several other opportunities that he was working on, and he was considering the competition against us because we're not communicating in a better way with them. When I start to speak Spanish and connect him with the right person inside the team to support on his efforts on the aftermarket, we overcome this roadblock, and now he included us again on the new opportunities he was coming. So being heard, supported, and understood helped him a lot to overcome the language barrier, but we need to have someone speaking Spanish with him.
Thank you, Diogo. And our final panelist for this question, Marcus?
Maybe I try this. Besides having language as a connection, sometimes the visual connection is good too, so then the people on that side don't fall asleep. No, it's actually good. I'm excited about the interaction, so actually there's a lot of interest. And so where I experienced with our company a disadvantage of not having the extra language when I'm at a trade show with our team and somebody comes from a South American country and we have nobody speaking Spanish, then we get the information and the follow-up is really difficult. And in 90% of the cases, we actually lose the business. So then I have to do sort of a cost-benefit analysis, hiring an extra person that can speak Spanish compared to the amount of business that we lose. And so it's a missed opportunity where I actually don't know how much the damage is or saving that salary helps. Earlier today when we had the presentation and it was shown how much export Pennsylvania does and the importance of language, I thought that's interesting where right now the president works on the tariffs and we import from 12 different countries and for example ribbons, it's okay with Europe, those are 6%, but I import from India and Vietnam where the tariffs are 35 or 45%. So America has really a tariff disadvantage, and you're probably going to work that out. Using the sledgehammer was another story, but overall the thing needs to be fixed, and so I'm counting on that it gets accomplished. But then what do you do after that? And that's where it's actually important that actually the next step after equalizing the tariffs is that we speak other languages, because best example is his wife talks 7 languages. So here we're competing with Europeans that talk French or Spanish and can do a better sale than we just talk American. I'm an importer, I speak with them in English, and that works because I'm providing the money. But now we want their money. And that's when you got to talk the language to, when you give somebody money, it's not only about the product, it's also about trust. And for example, when I buy from Asia, I place the order in March, they ship in June, and then 45 days later I pay. So they trust me that I'm going to pay them 4 or 5 months later. And now we have to do it the other way around. And there's the language barrier, that's when you can test, can I trust that person or not? And so I just want to put that out there, that you maybe talk to your politicians when they are a little slow, after the tariffs are evened out, say this is actually the next step, because you can't do more export if not talking the language. And again, Pennsylvania showed 89% is small business. So yeah, the huge corporation, send some more SUVs over, or like Vietnam says they're going to buy more Boeings. That's great, but we don't have any Boeing here in Pennsylvania. And so that's why I think that can be a great mission or a great argument. We are the next step after the tariffs. So thanks for letting me hear that.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move on to question 3, and in the interest of time, so we stay on track, we're going to only hear from our 2 panelists we haven't heard from yet. The question is, how has your organization benefited from employees with cultural awareness, and can you share a story? And so we'll start with Dale.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. Healthcare is a $4 trillion industry, but healthcare is personal. Every individual is different, and everyone's needs are unique. And so I'm gonna be the bookend to Bobby's conversation about emergency medicine and talk about my background in internal medicine. And when a patient comes in, and we try to keep people out of the emergency room, sorry, but when you're talking to someone who is, and this is adult medicine, and often the patients would have multiple comorbidities, so multiple diseases that needed to be managed, and sometimes difficult. So for example, heart failure is difficult to manage, with fluids and heart medication. And so a patient presents, and that communication with your care team is critically important. And that relationship that you build with them is long-term. And so if you feel heard by your physician or your PA, you feel that you build an implicit trust. Now imagine that you are accessing your care team and you don't speak any English. And how does that affect the dynamic? That language proficiency and communication builds implicit trust, a buy-in, a compliance, and adherence, and ultimately lower cost. And Bobby talked about all the tests that they need to order in the emergency room when the communication is not there. So it's a lower cost and ultimately a better outcome because the patient then feels like a partnership in their healthcare and more likely to contact them if the medication is giving them a hard time to manage. If you take a medication and it's making you feel sick and you don't have that relationship with the care team, you might stop taking it. But if you've had that relationship, you can call and say, you know what, this isn't working for me, what can I do? And they'll give you tips and tricks to make it more manageable and follow up with you to make sure that it's working. And so that dramatically can impact the health outcome. And so that proficiency for language in the workplace is critically important to the communication that then builds a trust and relationship for that patient's healthcare.
Thank you, Jill. We'll pass the mic over to Elizabeth.
My name is Liz Perez, and I've worked in healthcare for over 35 years, and I do agree with the proficiency. But also with them being proficient, they also have to be trained to be able to interpret. Because not everyone that says that they speak the language can interpret the medical terminology for what the provider is saying in the back of the word. So when it comes to cultural awareness, it allows a person to recognize the cultural differences. So a lot of our healthcare institutions, what they do is they provide these cultural awareness trainings, which are wonderful. Because with Pennsylvania being the hub for our migrant and our migrant populations that come here, as well as refugees, it is so important to have these cultural awareness trainings. So again, 35 years is a long time. So I remember when the Vietnamese started coming to Pennsylvania, that giving my age. But the Nepali populations, when they came, how do you treat them? How do you care for them? How do you speak their language? Well, what we did when I worked in the healthcare before, what we did is that we provided these cultural awareness trainings, brought the leaders to our institution to share about their culture, to share about their lives. Why do multiple family members come to a visit? Why do you need this? So I'm going to share with you a story. So we had a situation in the ICU, and we had a patient who was passing away, Nepali. And the family wanted to bring a spiritual leader. Well, the provider was like, no, the patient's too weak, we can't have too many people here. Well, they contacted our department, we contacted pastoral care, got everyone involved, and what the provider did was say, okay, we'll just let the immediate family. Well, did they realize that the immediate family was 10 people? Well, they brought 10, and they were all in the room. They provided that spiritual thing, their cultural for what they do as far as when it comes for end of life. Did you know that the patient went home and died peacefully at their house? Because the person was brought in, this spiritual connection was made. The family was so grateful for what we were able to provide. But not only that, we provided an interpreter who was certified, qualified in the Nepali language to assist providers to understand what was going on, as well as provide that assistance to the family. So I do the training for the Bridging the Gap Medical Interpreter Training Program. It is so important that we take our staff members who are multilingual and train them to show them how it should be done. It's not like, well, she said or he said. No, it's this connection. You have to. There's a nuance when it comes to interpreting. It's not just, and it's interpreting, not translation. There is a difference. Translation is written, interpreting is verbal. So again, providing this extra education to our multilingual staff not only promotes patient satisfaction, but also employee satisfaction.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Our next question, we will have two respondents. What linguistic and/or cultural needs do you predict that your organization will have in the future? Eliza, would you take that question first?
So
So, I think my answer to this question ties into my answer to the initial question, which is, I only see a growing need for linguistic and cultural training within our organization. Tools like AI, they're only growing. Our UPMC's investment thesis is only expanding. I mean, we are investing in companies not just in the United States, but across the world. And so we need to have employees with the ability to make these connections that we've all been talking about today. I truly do believe that the inability to communicate in the same language takes away from us our ability to find our common ground as humans, and I think it helps foster bias, so not just in AI algorithms, but in humanity. So, we've got no choice but to continue to encourage, to search for, to embrace people within our organization to come to our organization and bring with them their languages, bring with them their culture, and bring with them those perspectives. It only adds, necessary depth to what we do at UPMC every day.
Thank you, Liza. And Michael?
Thank you. I think my part of the question is, how do we increase access to English learners and multi-language learners? And I think it's just through certification and awareness. How many of you, by a show of hands, use the ACTFL testing through like Language Testing International? So a number of you, which is great. And I think for us in Career Tech Ed, it was just working with our students to make sure that we're part of that journey and connecting the workforce with language. So even if the students, what we've learned, didn't necessarily pass and with the seal of biliteracy, they're going to get some feedback. And from one of our students that stopped learning Mandarin in 3rd grade when school became difficult, the assessment kind of helped him and his mother, who was hoping that he was going to follow up with Mandarin, it re-energized them. And what we don't do often in education is celebrate accomplishments. So at the end of the year, every one of our students that took the assessment, we really celebrated their language accomplishments, and that was really powerful. Having the opportunity to work with Montserrat Garibay and Melissa Castillo, bring in the Office of Career Tech Ed and the Office of English Language Acquisition, as Amanda said, connecting those intersections, very, very powerful. So those documents are no longer on the Department of Ed's website, but they're on the Perkins Collaborative, and we could get you access to them. Our ultimate goal in Career Tech Ed is celebrate workforce. Every one of our students that goes, we celebrate their accomplishments. We get a sign with the business. We employ a UBCTS student. We really wanted to take a look and say, do we do something with language? And we did it. But all of those successes are very, very powerful. And I think that goes along with not only identify, credential, but celebrate those outcomes. Think about all the great things your students go and do, and I believe that's how we can increase access to this population, and I thank you.
All right, so we've gotten to our final question. And the question is, if you had the chance to speak to our language students, what advice would you give to them with respect to their language and cultural studies? And this time we'll start with Elizabeth.
So I was supposed to answer the last question, but I just wanted to talk about a little bit about the technology. While technology is advancing, you have to be careful with the AI because it may translate it literally. So you have to be very careful. So you're going to need interpreters and translators when it comes to AI. But also, if your client has low literacy, then how are they going to read it? I'll leave it there. So if I had the chance to speak to future students, and what advice I would give them is continue to learn your language. Like Michael had said, that student had stopped Mandarin in the 3rd grade. Well, that happens a lot to a lot of our children, that they stop the language at a certain age, but it's really important to continue with the language, continue to learn about the culture, especially your own culture. Continue perfecting that your language, but also get your language assessed. If you speak a second language, get it assessed. See what level you're at. Where do you need to be in that level? But also, when it comes to myself, you know, I say back in the day. So when I was younger, I speak Spanish, but then I started learning the different cultures, where they spoke Spanish at. I didn't know they spoke Spanish in Africa. There's a country in Africa that speaks Spanish, and that was very new to me. So North America, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, Europe, learning in Africa, learning about their culture. So when they come into the healthcare, I'll ask, what region are you from? So I can interpret better for them. So when their words that, because again, there are a lot of similarities in the Spanish, but there are also little variations and also the differences in how we say things. So it wouldn't take me by surprise. So again, with our workforce, we have a diverse workforce, and making sure that these students, when they come into the workforce, to bring their language, to bring their culture, we embrace that. We want to make sure, because the thing is that they'll be able to promote a lot of sensitivity, a lot of empathy. Because when we look, if you look at the climate now, we have to be very careful. A lot of our migrant populations and refugees are not going to healthcare. So you're going to see a lot of patient navigators. You're going to see a lot of community workers. But those community workers have to be trained in interpretation to assist the physicians and also to assist their staff. Thank you.
And we'll pass the mic down to Dale to hear from her as well.
Thank you. I would say to students that language is a superpower. If you have students that are coming in elementary school, middle school, high school, and they're learning English as a second language, they're feeling a little behind the eight ball. They have to catch up. They want to be like everybody else. Well, we know that they're sponges. They learn language very quickly. They pick up culture very quickly. But instead of disempowering them with their foreign language as a primary language, I would flip the script and tell them how powerful it is in the workplace that they're going to inherit. We currently have 67 million foreign language speakers in the United States. 27 million of them identify as not proficient in English. Their language proficiency in the workforce is going to be critically important. Those 27 million people are consumers. They're healthcare consumers, but they're also consumers in every other industry. And so being able to speak to them in their native language, and we talked about how important that is in creating trust and relationships, that's a superpower. If we look at trends in the industry, and I can speak from healthcare, in the pharmaceutical industry, it's a multinational industry. And this just came out. Roche is investing $50 billion. Johnson & Johnson is investing $55 billion. Merck is investing $1 billion. Novartis is investing $23 billion, and Eli Lilly has not disclosed it yet, but they're all investing huge sums of money in the development of research and development and pharmaceutical manufacturing. That includes pharmaceuticals, but also cell and gene therapy. Those jobs need to be filled. And these companies are multinational. And being able to speak a language with a multinational team and build relationships has a direct connect to high-performing teams and successful outcomes. So those students need to see themselves as the professionals of the future in the industry as it's evolving and their place in it.
And we have time to hear from Marcus as well.
Was the last question. I had to make some notes. The other ones were easy. yeah, what to say to the students, what would I say to the students? So to the students, why are you at college? Because somehow later you probably want to make some money. Or you maybe want to have a good education, so you're going to be a good, interesting spouse of a millionaire or something. But overall, it's just good when you got to see, if you ever watch the movie Ice Age, there is that squirrel going after that nut. And you have to decide what is your nut. Where do you want to go after? So when I was a kid, 14 years old, I played tennis, and the two richest guys in the tennis club drove a BMW 7 Series. So my parents had a Honda Accord. So I thought, okay, the Honda Accord I probably can achieve. What do I need to do so I can have that BMW 7 Series? And sometimes, it's not planning paycheck to paycheck. It took me actually 21 years, then I got my BMW 7 Series. So then where do you get to it? And it's interesting when in high school in Germany you can vote off, in your last year you can vote off English. And I said, I know I'm never going to use it again in my life. And then I started a job that was close to home because I never wanted to move out of my city. So now I'm 4,000 miles away and I speak English every day. So it's already, but again, I did those changes because my mission was getting that BMW 7 Series. And going through America where there's more money than in Europe, that's a good mission. Plus the BMWs cost probably around 20-30% less here. So that makes it a little easier too. The opportunities that you have with the languages, each language or area or culture actually offers a great opportunity. So the one is, if you want to just stay and do something in America, as you know, when you pick up the phone, dial 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. So when you speak Spanish, you really can communicate with a lot of people. And if, for example, the person that's at our factory who speaks Spanish and English makes more money because she can translate, and unfortunately the people that don't speak too good English make less money. It shows you not having the second language, you make less money. That saves me as an employer with labor costs, but that's how the market is. And I have my employees since 10-15 years, so with inflation they make more money anyhow, and when you get 3% every year after 20 years it adds up. But so that's how, it's a great example how you make money there. The other area, like I said, when I was in Germany, I looked at America where this big money is, and in America is still big money. But you go by the GDP, so the second one is China. There's a lot of money. Right now we have a bit of a hiccup, but they still have a lot of money. So if you learn Mandarin or Cantonese, that can be an opportunity for you. Then India is the next one. And then recently, and then certainly Latin America, there are a lot of emerging countries there. Brazil, very strong, which would be Portuguese, and then a lot of them speak Spanish anyhow. And then what I realized more and more, Africa is coming up, that's why China invests a lot. So America is a little bit behind there. And that's where with our culture, they actually want to learn from us. They're already in Nigeria, they love shopping, and so that means they need more products. And that's again where we have a great variety of cultures here that actually can go over there, teach them how to make money and how to build a culture similar like America, because almost everybody wants to be like America. Maybe not right now, because we're beating them up a bit. But you know, that all works out in a few years. And but because we have the best wealth, again, what was shown there too, equality, and our legal system works. So everybody looks after America, and that's why that language helps you to connect with Africa, Latin America, Asia, and that's how you can make more money, so you reach your nut when you go after that. And so that's why, don't forget that what is your main mission and how you get there, and you got to be flexible. It always comes different than you think. My daughter said, after high school, she said, I want to go to a college, but I don't want to go to Penn State, because everybody goes to Penn State. So then she went a half year to Emory, and she said, this here is a bunch of BS. I better come home. And actually she did then Penn State online, and she loved it. So again, you have a plan, all the colleges except one, and then you end up with the one. And so that would be another advice besides the language. You're not with the ice age, and then always be flexible.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Can we give them another round of applause? And if you didn't get to hear them answer one of the questions, it's great during lunch or other times, connect with them, kind of learn more about their stories and what they would like to share, because I know we didn't have enough time to hear from everybody, because we could have been here all morning, right, Sherry? So we really appreciate their time spending some of their, sharing some of their expertise with all of us. I'll turn it back to Sherry.